Alright guys, so welcome back to part 2 of this how-to video. I said I was going to be fixing up the cliff, but I think first we're going to go for this river. So this is going to be more about painting the terrain and stuff like that. So again, I'm going to get my brushes out, and I think 3 will do for this. I'm going to do another sphere, this time of 0, because 0 is and size. How big do you want this river? I'll go for 3 for now, and then we can just do mask 2 and mask 3, so that'll mask all the grass and dirt, and then all we can do then is just, oh wow, that's really big, so we'll make 3 holes, and then we can go on to our next brush, sphere 0, 1, mask 2 and 3, and then with that brush you can just make a very nice small simple stream like that, and then just cut in, you know, just add bits here and there. Okay, so we've done that, and then we're going to do a brush smooth 3. Like I said in the last video, you don't want a big brush because you want to avoid things like this happening, so we're going to go for an even smaller brush, size 2, and that's going to happen again. Yeah. Okay, so I'll do this side and show you what it should start to look like. Basically, you're just going to smoothen the edges of the terrain out. Okay, sorry about all this. I'm not sure what my computer's doing, but it is just sort of dying right now. As always, I'm sure I say that in every video that my computer's dying, but it really is this time. So, back to rivers. What you want to do is try and create a natural curve with the riverbed, and try and make it sort of flow at a nice angle, and that will help to just make the general river look a bit more natural, make it seem like it's sort of being formed realistically. Now I'm just going to do this real quick to show you what it might look like if you do it by hand and you do it really rigidly, and why this would be a bad thing to do. So I'll just speed this process up because it might take a while. Okay, so this is what we've got so far, and as you can see, it kind of just goes in a straight line there, and it doesn't look great, this sort of style. So what I'm going to do is just show you a few things that I like to do that help even this out a little bit more, and that is just by punching out the odd block here and there, and so as you can see, this is what it more or less will end up looking like when you do it with sort of like a rigid, like this sort of formation where every block has to go out like this, and it just looks, one, a little bit too wide for the size of this river, and 2, it sort of just goes in a straight line. You want to add different lengths, and you want to add a bit of a curve here and there, so that's what I'm going to go back and re-edit now by doing all of this. We're also going to raise the riverbed up a block and make that too wide at the bottom, and that will shorten this river and make it look a little bit more realistic to its size and its relation to where it's coming from in the plot. So by doing that, I'm also going to count 2 blocks here, and that's where that one's going to go. This is a very simple, I keep saying this is a very rigid way of sort of building rivers, and it's a very quick and simple way, but it doesn't always look good. So it depends, really does depend on the environment and where you are using it, on whether or not you should use this technique. And as you can see, it really gets straight here, so what you can do just to really spice that up a little bit is add a bit of a bend in here. It doesn't have to be anything too dramatic or anything like that, just a little bit of a bend in there, and then cut this back as well, so it actually makes it look like the river is sort of curving round, if that's the right way to put it. Okay, so that's obviously far too much, so we're going to chop that out there. We need to get rid of that block, which means we also need to get rid of this, and maybe a bit of this here. Nah. So the idea I'm going for here is that the river is going to slightly get bigger as it goes and flows through here. Right, so that's nothing special, it's nothing perfect. But what we're going to work on now is this bit that's going to flow down. And something I'm going to mention just before I do this waterfall: if you're going to have a waterfall that comes under a straight edge of a cliff like this and drops down, the actual pool where it originally collects is going to be deeper than the riverbed, and the reason for this is the force of the water hitting down at the rock is going to erode it a little bit more. So I'm just going to force this out a little bit and cut it round and actually drop it down so it's a little bit deeper around these areas there. And then as it collects up here and it gets a little bit too high, that's when it'll start flowing off in this channel that we've just created over here, which I'm still not too happy with, so I'm probably going to fiddle about with this a lot more off camera. Okay, so now we've done that, I'm actually just going to place a block of water at the top and just see how well this actually flows down. So we're roughly going to have it originating from, well, where do we think it would originate from? Maybe this block here. And we'll just watch and see how this actually translates with the terrain. And I really like that, and something I try to do in most of my waterfalls is add a split, and this has quite naturally done it. Well, I say naturally, Minecraft naturally has added that split, which is quite nice. So just delete that water source. That tells me that we don't have to do too much work there. So what I'm going to work on now is a bit more of the terrain before we actually start painting it, which means we need to get our brushes from the last episode. Sphere 1. We only need the size 1 and maybe the size 2 brushes for this. So sphere 1 size 2. Is that 2 or 3? Yeah, 2. And we also need to add the mask back for both of these two brushes we've just made. So using the size 2 brush, I want to build this up a little bit. And yep, okay, so it's not going to mess up like it was at the start of the last one. I'm just going to build this area up so it actually looks like it's going around here, and then it doesn't actually need too much work. This just add in these bits here like this. This needs a bit more detail because you can see it's a completely flat area. Just undo that there and there. Why is my mouse not moving? And just bringing it out a little bit like this, so that looks a little bit nicer already. Now we can go back in doing more detail along this actual cliff face, and what we're going to do for this is just basically go in by hand and almost add a complete lip. But you don't want to do it everywhere, you just want to do like a couple of blocks here and there. You know, we've got 3 blocks there, 3 blocks there, and sometimes make it dip in a bit like this here. So it actually cuts into the rock as well, because cliffs aren't always going to hang over, you're also going to get the bits that stick out. So like I've just been doing here and there, and you can see this complete flat wall there. Well, that was the wrong brush, but it actually doesn't look too bad. I'm just going to add a bit of detail with this brush just to sort of get rid of some of those completely flat areas, and just do that for the whole of this cliff section. Don't want to mess up this too much because we had a really nice river flowing down a second ago. Really push this out here and push this out here. That should look quite nice now. And especially with the size 1 brush, you're really going to get these plus shapes everywhere, so try and just cut them away by hand if you don't want them, or add blocks to them to make them look like shapes that actually naturally form in the rock. And the only other thing I think that's left to talk about flat walls and the cliffs is just cut sections out like this, you know, so you get this nice little formation going on in the rocks. We've already got some natural ones here. You're just going to add to those, take bits away here and there as well, like this, and that doesn't look too bad for a very rough sketch. Obviously when you're doing this plot properly, you're going to have more time to go over that and make it look nice. Something else that I'm going to go over and redo as well is just to bring this out a little further. I know I've done this 2 or 3 times now, bringing it out further, but it just looks to me like it needs to come out that extra bit more. So we've done this, build that up like so. And this is basically just going to sort of smoothen out the contours between the start of the hill, at the start of the mountain, and the actual terrain. Because originally I think it looked a little bit too steep, and I'm just going to get smooth 2 for this one. And with this size C brush, we're just going to sort of smoothing out the corners of these really big squares that we've just sort of created, quite ugly shapes. Just click in here and there, definitely smooth out this little section there, and here also like that. And we don't want any of these little plus shapes, so get rid of them. And I think that is about all that we need to do now. I'm quite happy with the way that this terrain is looking. So now moving on to actually painting the terrain. Yeah, okay, so here's how I actually paint by terrain. So what I'm going to need is a brush for the main mountains. That's what we're going to do first. Sphere 1:0, that's the normal stone. 1:5 is dark stone, and 1:6 is light stone. And a nice big brush of 5, and then mask 1. And basically you can do this with a brush, or you can do this by selecting the entire plot if you're doing it all by plot, and then just right click over everywhere with this brush, and that just gives me a nice sort of undercoating and an idea of what I want this terrain to look like. You don't have to use these materials, you know, not every terrain is going to have to use these materials, and sometimes I don't think that they actually suit each other. They don't always mix together nicely, so we're going to be changing bits of this, don't worry. So that's like a basic sort of look for, you know, when we say, you know, you need to add more details to the rocks, even doing something like this makes a bit of an improvement. But the dark and light stone don't really mix properly together. So that's one way that you could do it. And what I'm going to do, actually, for the sake of this video, is replace near 21 with 1. And actually just basically undo everything that I've just done there. The reason for that is because I'm going to show you a technique that I use, again using brushes, similar to that, but actually with a bit more sort of deliberate choice on where the blocks go. It's still going to be a random brush, but a bit more thought going into exactly where I want them to go. So I'm going to do brush sphere 1:0 and 1:5 dark stone, and a size of 2. Mask 1, the mask should still be there, but we'll do it just in case. And on the sort of inside of these little crevices, I'm just going to paint a little bit here and there, and it doesn't add a lot of detail, it just sort of slightly darkens these little crevices, these little areas, and it's something that I like to improve on. You can do completely dark if you want it to be that sort of shape, but by adding the size 1 in the brush, it creates this idea of you know, it's sort of mixed together. It's not quite completely dark. Another thing that you can do as well is to add so we'll do the same brush this time. Instead of 5, we'll do 6, and do that over the top of these ridges. Okay, and that's going to do is add like a sort of highlight to the top of these ridges, like this, and that's just a very rough basic outline here. So that already you're sort of seeing a little bit of the detail coming through. You can really see this is highlighted and really see that's dipping in because it's darker and that's lighter. That's okay, but now I'm going to do a brush with all three of them, and again the exact same size 2. No, we'll do size 1 I think for this, size 1. And what I'm going to do with this brush is just go in between these gaps here. Why has that not got any dark in it? 1, 1:5 there, and that, just add that in here. Just really sort of blend the two together. And again, up on this side, just blend the two together. Need some at the top here, right down there, just really simple. Up this side there, down this side here, and you might not think it makes a great difference, but just having this slight blend will actually make it look a bit more natural. And down here as well, I need to add some more light stone to this, so do that, delete this, and then we can come right down there. So this is one method that you can use to add detail to it, and I've deliberately left these lower rocks out for a reason. So now we're going to do 1:1, 1:2, and we'll leave it at just that for now I think, and we'll do a slightly bigger brush because we've got a bigger area. We'll do size 3 and just sort of plonk it around about here, and just sort of fill all this up with your mossy stone textures. Again, these are all sort of Conquest reliant and Optifine. Okay, so you've got all them textures in now. And the other thing that we're going to do is add grass. Now this is where I'm going to use the overlay command. So we're going to do hpos 1 and find a rough area where we want it to select, and the rest we're going to have to do by hand. There's sort of no easy way around it. We'll just do this here, just make that a little nicer, and on this block hpos 2, and then we can do / overlay 2. And that just adds grass to that whole section. Okay, so one server crash later. Where were we? So we've just done the / overlay command, and it's actually messed up the river a little bit. So I'm just going to actually cut this back all by one block, sort of like very roughly, just so it's not all double layered up. And these bits here, now these bits have messed up because the cliff is overhanging, and obviously it can't overlay these blocks because these blocks are on the top. So this is what it looks like on the overlay, and we need to blend this in now because it's obviously the horrible straight cut, and I did say that I was just in the middle of doing all this, so I'll cut back when I've smoothed this all out. Okay, so don't worry, you've not missed too much. I've just got this grass layer here and basically just gone all along all these edges, and we can see this area here, it doesn't look very nice, so we're just going to chop it back and cover this in grass. Okay, so now we're going to get to the brushes and how to actually blend these in. So we're going to take the first brush, sphere. We need to think of what materials are around in those areas, so we're going to use 1:1, 1:1, 1:2, and 2. Okay, so that's the grass. And we're going to do a size of 2. And then we're going to mask 1 and 2 because you want it to cover stone and grass blocks. And then we're just going to go roughly like this. This might actually be a little bit too big, this brush. We'll just sort of cover up these sort of areas, and anywhere where it's a little bit flat like that, just get nice and round the edges there. And the same over on this side, we're just going to roughly go up, where it's a little bit flatter, grass might grow a little bit more. Make it really rocky at the top there. Sort of bring it out a little bit as well, so it doesn't look like it's at, sort of at one location where it's all being sort of made. And I might in fact do it around here as well, sort of along this edge cliff like that. Bring it there. And this is again is just sort of a site thing, and depends on what type. Bloody hell, crikey! Depends on what type of terrain you're actually making. Now, again, going back to where we want this river to flow. Moss often grows where there's river, where there's water. Bloody hell! So we're going to get rid of the 2 out of this brush, and we're also going to add 1:0, just get a bit of normal stone mixed in there, and 1:5, because we want to keep some of that dark stone in there as well. And then press enter, and we're just going to follow up this stream here up like this, just where the water's going to be flowing, nice and easy like that, and that looks okay to me. So this is sort of roughly how your terrain should be looking at the moment. I really don't like this section there though. We're going to need a bit more grass there. Just like that. Again, none of this has to be exact or anything. It's just sort of undoing bits and then going over it again. So brush, sphere, 1:1, 1:2, and 2. Size 1. Just to cover these grass bits here, and then I can really get my own sort of pick on how I want it to look. There you go. That looks a little bit nicer now, I think. And you know, you could even go a little bit higher up maybe on some of the parts, not all over the place. You know, maybe you want a bit of grass there, you want a bit of grass there. Same with this, you can see it's really reaching up the hill, and over here as well, and coming round like that. A lot of people always ask me, how do I get sort of like the grass going up the hill and stuff like that, and it's really just as simply, I'm just doing this all over the place with a really small brush. If you want to do it with just grass, I'd suggest using a brush of 1, just so you can get really accurate and really close to what you want it to look like. And I'm not sure whether to put any up there or not. So this is how this is looking, and I'm really happy with the way this is turning out. So now we're going to turn our attention to this and then quickly do the riverbed, and I think we'll be fine. So brush, sphere, and for under the cliff I'm going to use 1:0 and 1:5. Quite a large brush, just because we're going quite quickly over this. Just sort of cover up all of these areas like that. There and there and there. And then areas at the bottom where there's grass and areas at the top where there's grass, we want there to be some mossy stone. So sphere 1:0, 1:5, 1:1 is your moss, and 1:2 is your other moss. Size 1, again, you're a really nice precise brush, and mask 1. You don't want it to be masking the grass at this point. Just sort of click around here. You can see where this is all really square, so you might want to punch out a block or 2 like this, just so it gets a bit more shape. You can go up and down in some places. I'm actually going to take one of these materials out. I think we'll get rid of the dark stone, so we get a little bit more variant in the moss. We've got quite a lot of moss already hanging down, so that's okay. And you can really just sort of mess around with this. Obviously here's going to be very mossy because that's by all the water, and all around here is going to be really mossy as well. Okay, so now riverbeds. You're going to have mossy stone under there, you're going to have dirt under there. They're 2 natural textures that are just always going to be there. So 1:2, 1:1, and 3:3 is permanent dirt, although I think the ticks are turned off for dirt on the server. And then we want some sediment as well. Now, because it's coming down from that big rocky cliff, we're going to have really fine sediment, and we're also going to have some pretty thick sediment, which is going to be 13:1 is the bigger gravel to light debris, and size of 2. And then for that we need a mask for all of those. So mask 1, mask 2, because you want to mask the grass in there, mask 3, not E, and mask 13, and that should mask all of the materials that we're planning on using. And then you can just go over here and you can see we've got a nice sort of gritty riverbed texture going along here like this. And you notice we've only got the one type of gravel mixed in here, and that's going to be something that you need to update with World Edit needs updating. So just get a blaze rod, right click, left click, and you just need to do that, update all of the different chunks. So just do it every now and then, and you can see the difference there in the two textures. Yeah, you've got a thicker gravel and a thinner gravel. And again, just updating the chunks here and there. And if you want as well, another option that you have is to you know, maybe not the dirt, but you could also add gravel in here. So if I just get rid of the dirt, we can just add a little bit of gravel into here like this, where we want the water to be. Okay, so I think that's pretty much everything I need to talk about in terraforming and sort of painting your terrain in. I'm just going to add this water block and see what it all looks like. Okay, so there you go. Now again, you could add more detail by bringing this riverbed texture with brush that we've just made and applying that to the edges of the riverbed. I'm going to leave it as dirt for now, because this is just a sort of a rough video to show you what you can do with a bit of time. I mean, I think this whole series might have taken me about an hour. If I wasn't explaining it and sort of rushing through, well, if I wasn't explaining it as much, it would be quicker, but if I wasn't rushing through, I'd also be taking a bit more time and making it really, really perfect terrain. Obviously, there's still quite some dodgy bits around here. So all that's left to do is bone meal the terrain, add a couple of trees around, and you've got a really nice landscape here, perfect and ready for building. So I think that's going to be the end of the video. I'm just going to put my render distance up a little bit so I can get a nice screenshot. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope these two videos have been helpful to you. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one.